I desensitized myself to it. I don't know, I went to great lengths.
In a haunting interview, I sat down with Jeffrey Dahmer, hoping to unravel his thoughts and motivation for his heinous crimes. Despite the chilling nature of our conversation, Dahmer surprisingly agreed to divulge details that might be difficult to hear. My initial inquiry was about his motivations behind the men he targeted.
I had these obsessive desires and thoughts wanting to control them, to I don't know how to put it, possess them permanently.
That's the reason you killed them?
Right. Not because I was angry with them, not because I hated them, but because I wanted to keep them with me. And as my obsession grew, I was saving body parts such as skulls and skeletons.
Dahmer, infamous for his monstrous acts, recounted his past from a modest apartment in Milwaukee, where police unearthed ghastly remnants of one of America's most appalling crime sprees. Over the span of 13 years, Dahmer, a seemingly unassuming chocolate factory worker, confessed to seduction, murder, and dismemberment of 17 young men, some of whom he cannibalized. His revelation thrust him into the global spotlight, sparking protests and press conferences as the world grappled with the incomprehensible horror. How could such atrocities unfold undetected for over a decade? How could a young man from a respectable middle-class family change into a depraved predator? In this interview conducted in the confines of the maximum security prison, where he serves a sentence nearing 1,000 years, Dahmer peels back the layers of his psyche, offering a chilling glimpse into the mind of a serial killer. Dahmer's intelligence and eloquence veiled the darkness within, underscoring the unnerving reality that evil often wears a deceptive disguise. Yet beneath his articulate facade lay a harrowing truth, a truth that emerged as he recounted the details of his crimes.
It's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. When you depersonalize another person and view them as just an object for pleasure instead of a living, breathing human being, it seems to make it easier to do things you shouldn't do.
The narrative unfolded with alarming clarity, from the murder of Stephen Hicks, his first victim at the age of 18, to the macabre rituals that preceded each subsequent killing. Dahmer's account painted a portrait of unbridled savagery. He spoke of dismemberment, necrophilia, and the creation of a makeshift altar, a testament to the depths of his depravity. You sound as if you are the type of person that could say to yourself, "This is wrong."
I always knew that it was wrong, but after the first killing was not planned. I was coming back from the shopping mall back in '78. I had fantasies about picking up a hitchhiker and taking him back to the house and having complete control and dominance over him.
The hitchhiker's name was Stephen Hicks. He was only 18. Jeffrey took him to his parents' house. There he choked him with a dumbbell and dismembered his body, stuffing it in a drain pipe. It was Jeffrey Dahmer who informed the police of the location in his confession.
No one had a clue as to what was happening for over a decade.
During that time, Jeffrey Dahmer joined the army and was sent to Germany, where he was discharged for a drinking problem. He returned to Ohio 9 years after he had murdered Stephen Hicks. What happened to you for that 9 years in between that you were able to control yourself?
It just wasn't an opportunity to fully express what I wanted to do. There was just not the physical opportunity to do it then. And I started When I moved to Milwaukee in '81, I started reading pornography, going to the bookstores. Eventually that led to frequenting the gay bars. And then one time I brought this young man back to the hotel room, the Ambassador Hotel. Was just planning on drugging him and spending the night with him. Had no intention of hurting him. When I woke up in the morning, he had a broken rib here, was heavily bruised. Apparently I had beaten him to death with my fists.
No memory of it.
But that's what started the whole spree all over again.
Dahmer says that he snuck the body of his victim Stephen Twomey out of his hotel room in a suitcase, took it to his grandmother's house where he cut it up and put it in plastic bags. When you kill these men, are you repulsed or upset?
No, at the time, it was almost addictive. It was almost a surge of energy. I wouldn't have to worry about any of their needs or anything. I just had complete control of the situation.
But Jeffrey Dahmer was out of control. His urge to kill had overpowered him, as police later learned. He wasn't satisfied with his victim's death, and he wanted more. Why did you take pictures?
It was my way of remembering their appearance, their physical beauty. I also wanted to keep something. If I couldn't keep them there with me whole, at least I felt that I could keep their skeletons. And I even went so far as planning on setting up an altar with the 10 different skulls and skeletons.
What was your reason for the altar?
As a sort of memorial. A point where I could, I don't know, it's so bizarre and strange, it's hard to describe. A place where I could collect my thoughts and feed my obsession.
When the bodies were still in your apartment, was there ever a time you would see them as gross or ask, what have I done?
There were times, but the compulsive obsession with doing what I was doing overpowered any feelings of revulsion.
This man with a quiet and almost shy demeanor became a master manipulator, who was able to lure the strangers he met at gay bars back to his apartment. He was even able to convince police into returning a 14-year-old boy to him, after neighbors called 911. The boy was in the street bleeding and naked. Dahmer convinced the police that he and the boy were only having a lover's argument.
There's an intoxicated boyfriend of another boyfriend.
Well, how old was this child?
He wasn't a child, he was an adult.
After the police left, Jeffrey Dahmer murdered that boy. Connor acts into some phone. This man claims to have had near-fatal encounter with Dahmer.
He wanted to take some picture of my back. He hit me with a rubber hammer on my neck.
He was lucky to escape because by then, the killing had become almost routine. Any type of ritual before you went to pick someone up?
I'd go to the nightclubs, drink, watch the striptease shows. And if I didn't meet anyone at the bars, I'd go to the bath clubs and meet someone there, offer them money, and we'd go back to the apartment, have a few drinks. I'd have the sleeping pill mixture already prepared. Person would drink it, fall asleep, and that's when they would be strangled.
Dahmer also liked to watch The Exorcist 3 as part of the ritual, putting him in the mood for killing.
I felt so hopelessly evil and perverted that I actually derived a sort of pleasure from watching that tape.
Did you like feeling evil?
No, No, I didn't, but I had tried to overcome the thoughts, and it worked for a while, but eventually I gave in.
While Jeffrey Dahmer might say things today that could make it look as if he understands what went on in his brain, he doesn't. All he can tell you is what happened, but he can't control whatever it was that drove him to kill in the first place. Do you still feel the same urges, have the same compulsion and obsession?
I wish I could say that it just left completely, but no, there are times when I still do have the old compulsions.
Dahmer says as time moved on he became more and more warped, and yet he was smart enough to continue to elude police and entice young men to his apartment. Warning, the details are very graphic.
I started having these obsessive thoughts when I was about 15 and 16, and they got worse and worse.
What kind of fantasies?
They were sexual fantasies of control, power, complete dominance. They became reality.
Was there pleasure?
There was excitement, fear, pleasure, all mixed together.
Jeffrey Dahmer fulfilled his fantasies by murdering and dismembering 17 young men. In time, his desires became more extreme, his deeds more grotesque. Listen to him talk about the most unnatural things in the most matter-of-fact of ways. That's when you realize that none of it has touched him.
I was branching out. That's when the cannibalism started, eating of the heart and the arm muscle. It was a way of making me feel that they were a part of me. At first it was just curiosity, and then it became compulsive. Then I tried to keep the person alive by inducing a zombie-like state. By injecting first dilute acid solution into their brain or hot water, and it never did completely work.
Could you be stopped or be helped?
No, I was dead set on going with this compulsion. It was the only thing that gave me any satisfaction.
He was so full of evil impulses that he took a victim's head to work at the factory.
I kept the mummified head and skull of one of the victims in a carrying case in my locker at work.
Was it like a trophy?
Yes, but that's how strong the compulsion was. That's how bizarre the desire was. I wanted to keep something of the person with me.
Jeffrey displayed some quite disturbing behavior early on. He began drinking heavy as a teenager, dropping out of college, being arrested for indecent exposure, disorderly conduct, and being inappropriate with a 13-year-old boy. Tragically, one of his murder victims would be that boy's brother. What started it?
To this day, I don't know what started it. And the person to blame is sitting right across from you. That's the only person. Not parents, not society, not pornography. I mean, those are just excuses.
His sick 13-year crime spree finally ended when this man, Tracy Edwards, brought the police to this notorious apartment. Like the others, he had gone there with the promise of money.
Listening to my heart, because at a point he told me he was going to eat my heart at that point. I hit him and I ran.
At what point did you finally realize that you had done something horribly wrong? Something that you should be sorry for?
It was the night of the arrest. I have no memory of what happened during the 6 hours before the last victim ran out of the apartment. I heard a knock on the door, and the police were there with the last victim. They asked me where the key was to the handcuffs. My mind was in a haze. I sort of pointed to the bedroom, and that's where they found the pictures. And they yelled, "Cuff him." And I was handcuffed, and It was just the realization that there was no point in trying to hide my actions anymore. The best route was to help the police identify all the victims and just make a complete confession.
When it was learned that most of the victims were black or homosexual, people in Milwaukee were infuriated. Many felt that was why he went after them, and why the police didn't appear to care when families reported them missing. 10 of your 17 victims were black.
Were they racially motivated?
It was
crimes?
not racially motivated. It was not sexual preference. It was just to find an obsession with the best-looking young man I could find.
While you just heard Jeffrey say his sexual preference had nothing to do with the murders, he has not come to terms with his homosexuality.
Never understood it. There was no use trying to fight it because I couldn't rid myself of it. It was too powerful and persistent.
Are you upset by that?
Yes, it's caused a lot of problems for me. A lot of conflicts and unanswered questions.
His conflicts remain, and so do his compulsions, but in prison he cannot act on his evil desires. If you were out of this prison, would you still be committing the crimes?
Probably. If this hadn't happened, there's no doubt I probably would be. I can't think of anything that would have stopped me.